Hello all, and welcome to episode 5 of Cooking with Crick. Finally got some music going. I like it. I think we're going to do this from now on. There's something about cooking to music, and good chill music. It's one of my favorite things is just the idea of music as the closest thing that we could possibly experience to understanding how someone else feels, which I find magical, quite honestly. It's another reason why I'm incredibly grateful that I have some level of musical talent and rhythm and a joy in expressing it. So there's that. Anyway, today on episode 5 of Cooking with Crick, we are cooking a mushroom sauce over chicken. And our topic is relationship with yourself. And we're gonna I want to explain where the word crick came from, for those of you who don't know. Fun little story, nothing huge, but it's very personal to me, and it's something that I use as kind of an identifier, but we'll get to that. So, review. Here's everything we need. We have, and I said you need either a chicken breast or 2 chicken tenders, depending on the size. I'm using 2 chicken tenders here, ready to cook. We have 2 scallions, salt and pepper, 8 mushrooms, and I use the number 8 as just kind of a basic number. It was a guess, quite honestly. You can use more, you can use less. It really depends on how many mushrooms you like in your sauce. So as we get through this, as is true with anything that I cook, you can tweak the recipe as you like it. So we have, as I said, chicken, scallions, salt and pepper, mushrooms, sour cream, chicken stock, and the one thing I didn't add to the list, olive oil. So, my bad. But this is just to get the pan started with the mushrooms and the scallions. So if you don't have any olive oil, which I have no idea why you wouldn't, you can use butter instead, which of course we have right here. So, basically what you want to do is we're going to prep, and then we're going to cook the chicken, then we're going to cook the sauce, and then put the sauce, or put the chicken back in the pan with the sauce, and then plate it. So that's how we're going to go. So, we are going to start by prepping our scallions. And by the way, after you cut these off, I mean, obviously, I put them in the compost, but you can take these as is, put a little toothpick or even martini olive skewer through them. You hang them over the edge of a little piece of Tupperware, put water in it, and as soon as you see a sprout off the top, takes a few days, plant them in your garden, and you have unlimited scallions. We planted scallions, I think we did 7, and we've never had to plant a scallion since. And we haven't had to buy any since. So it's kind of amazing how that works. I don't need them, I have plenty, so these are going in the compost. But, nice little tip there for you. So, with this recipe, and with a lot of recipes, actually, you want to separate the whites and the greens. So, generally speaking, I will go as soon as it starts to shade down into a darker green, that's where I'll cut it off. So I'm going to go about right here. So these would be basically garnish or addition to a dish later in the process, whereas the whites tend to be used as starters, you know, something to accent an oil or a butter or something like that to get out the flavors. Stuff like this you put in with garlic a lot of the time. So, and again, from a knife skill perspective, I am not a master chef. I have the basic knife skills of using the butt of the knife or the bottom edge of the knife instead of the tip. And quite honestly, even if you're not great at this, it takes far less time than trying to do this with the tip of the knife. And you gotta use your finger, which hurts your knuckle after a while. This whole thing, if you have to do it this way, because you really can't do it the other way, just take your time and don't hurt yourself. But really, even if you're not doing the, you know, Gordon Ramsay 3 fingers, you know, that whole thing, you can still just come at it from the back end like this. So there we are. Well, and I can say while I'm prepping, I might as well tell you the Crick story. So, my nephew, my brother's son, was born in 2005, the year before I moved out to California. And, you know, we were debating at the time, talking to my siblings about, oh, well, what are we going to be called? You know, uncle or aunt, whatever. Onto the mushrooms. And we're just going to slice these about 1/4 of an inch thick. Kind of like that. And these are actually unnecessary for the recipe, but it's a nice little garnish at the end. We certainly don't need all of them. But the main part of the scallion that we need to use is the white. So I am going to cut up a few of these at the end to garnish on top, but you don't need it. So we're basically just going to cut all of these mushrooms, and then we'll get started with the chicken. So we were deciding what we wanted to be called. Uncle, aunt, whatever. At the time, for those of you who don't know, my sister died back in 2019, but she was Kiki. Kiki, and my sister Eileen was Lily, and my brother and I were talking about, oh, what are we gonna call you? Uncle Chris? That's just straightforward. That's not fun. That's not cool. What are we gonna? And then, you know, we're racking our brain trying to figure out something, and then it just hits us that, well, why are we trying to do this? He'll come up with something. So sure enough, I don't even remember when, honestly, but one day he just came out with Uncle Crick. And of course it wasn't Uncle, it was Unca. Unca Crick! That's how he said it. So, cooking with Crick came from my nephew Trevor's toddler name for me, Uncle Crick. So there you go. It's a very cute, endearing thing, and I absolutely love it because it was something created from the mind of a child. It wasn't anything I forced or anything like that. And so I like to use it as kind of a personal moniker. And it's a nice, fun little story too. So, and to that point, actually, probably one of my favorite stories of my nephew is I went home after I moved to California. I went home for I don't actually remember what it was. Might have just been a visit. But we went to the seafood restaurant and they had a lobster tank. And he wanted to go see the lobsters. So we go over there and I was pointing and I was saying, look at that guy, look at that guy. Wow, look at those guys over there. And then we go back to the table and he says, da-da, da-da, da-da. Of course, to my brother. He's like, what, you looking at the lobsters? And he goes, no, guys. I was like, Okay, my first horrible uncle move. I taught my nephew the wrong thing. Anyway, so that's really all we had to prep. If you want to prep out, like your measurements of half a cup and 2 tablespoons of this beforehand, totally up to you, just so you can boom, 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 pop it in. It's easy enough to just do this on the fly as we go. So we're going to come over to the stove and get our light on, and we'll get our chicken going. So nice drizzle of olive oil. And the great part about this, it's a one-pan situation. So you're going to cook the chicken, and it's cooked to just done. Then you're going to take the chicken out, and you're going to leave all that flavor in the pan. And we're going to cook our sauce in the leftovers of the chicken. So we're going to get some good flavor there. So I'm going to let that heat up, and then we're going to toss our chicken in. In the meantime, I'm going to talk a little about our topic. So, the topic today, relationship with yourself. Now, since I started my coaching practice, my kind of pitch, my elevator, 10-second deal is I help men, generally fathers, and specifically new fathers, to connect with and work through their emotions so that they can have a better relationship with themselves and with the people they love. Now, why? Why have a better relationship with yourself? Why not just have relationships with other people? Well, most people have heard the phrase, you can't love anyone until you love yourself. Well, it comes from that idea of being content and complete with yourself before engaging outside of yourself. Because if you're not engaging, or if you're only engaging outside of yourself, and you don't have a complete picture and relationship with yourself first, then you look for wellness, approval, your general well-being as a person. You look for all that from other people. And after not too long of a time, you come to rely on the approval of other people in order to acknowledge yourself. And now you are completely dependent on things outside of who you are to validate who you are. And we're going to get into that a little more. So, our pan is nice and hot. You can always tell the pan is nice and hot when the oil moves nicely around. Now, I like to coat the whole thing. And I am going to do a little something that you got to be careful with this because you don't want to burn the spices before they actually cook into the chicken. But I like to do this as a means of kind of starting the process with seasoning the chicken. So I'm going to go salt and pepper in the pan, and then chicken in. And then you just season the top and then flip it over. So, as that cooks, go going back to my notes. So, what does it actually mean? What does it actually mean to have a relationship with yourself? Because I've heard that phrase many times before I actually got into the work and started working on myself and helping others as well. And you hear all these phrases, these guru phrases, or these, self-help phrases, or stuff like that. And it makes sense in and of itself, but there's also like, okay, well, what does that mean? Or how do I do that? Or, it's nice to have something to point to, but if you're not familiar with how to go about it, it doesn't really matter all that much. So, I'm going to turn this down a little bit. What does it mean to have a relationship with yourself? Well, what does it mean to have a relationship with somebody else? Or rather, a healthy relationship with somebody else. How do you identify a healthy relationship versus a non-healthy relationship? Well, is there an ease in your engagement with whoever that is in the relationship, with yourself, with someone else? Is there honesty? Is there communication? Is there empathy and compassion and kindness? Those are all beneficial aspects of a good relationship. So, having a relationship with yourself includes all of those things. Do you say horrible things to yourself in your head? Most of us do. So if you say no, you're lying. Are you kind to yourself? Do you forgive yourself? Do you hold yourself to account for the promises that you made to yourself? Those things, in a positive manner, are having a good relationship with yourself. So, honesty, kindness and compassion, I said. Forgiveness, communication. These are all extremely important aspects of a good relationship with yourself. It's time to flip the chicken. Oh, no, it's not. Because I didn't season the other side yet. See, the great thing about the tenders that I really like is they generally cook fairly quick. So you don't need a lot of time. And at this point, I'm not squeezing the juice out of them so much as flattening out the meat so it cooks a little more evenly. Like so. So, kindness and compassion, what does that mean? Do you allow yourself to make mistakes? Recognize their mistakes, and then do your best to do differently in the future. Instead of sitting there saying, I'm such a piece of crap, I'm horrible, I can't believe I did that, why? I'm never going to get better, it sucks always and forever, all of that stuff. It's not a good relationship. Do you put yourself down about your skills, your body, anything you do, anything you have, anything you are? If you're putting yourself down, you're limiting and you're creating a situation that you can't get out of. Because if you're putting something down that you inherently have, that you can't change, then you're never going to be good. You're never going to be better. You're never going to be okay because you're always that thing. Right? And one of my favorite exercises is, and this is in the tools that I want to give you, is going through every time you're saying something in your head, catching yourself and saying, what would my friend or family member, or someone I care about, say to me in response if I was saying these things to them? And most of the time, the things you're saying to yourself, if you were saying them to someone you care about, they wouldn't want to be in your life. They wouldn't want to be your friend. They would have no interest in engaging you as a family member. And it's really sad how hard we are on ourselves. And that is a part of having a good relationship with yourself. So, I'm going to get to the tools in a minute, but chicken's about done, so we're going to get going here. Oh yeah. Like I said, fairly quick, and it's nice and easy. So there we go. We have nice golden brown on one side, nice golden brown on the other side. So now, I'm going to turn this down to low. Granted, I have a fairly large burner. You might need to keep this at medium or some other temperature. Basically, a little above a simmer is what we're looking for. So, I'm going to take these out, plate them up, and it's okay if these are just underdone or just done, because we are going to put them back in the pan after we get the sauce going. So, we're going to finish things off with the tools and some last comments after we finish the sauce. But now that we have everything prepped, we got our pan set, we're going to get going with that. So, again, drizzle of olive oil, and we're going to put our scallion whites and our mushrooms in the pan. Oh yeah, I can smell those already. So again, this looks like a lot, but remember that this is all going to cook down, and it's going to be much smaller, or it's going to seem like there are far fewer mushrooms than when you put them in. Just kind of like, it's my favorite other thing, like spinach. You put this huge thing of spinach in a pan, and it's like, then you put it on your plate, it's that freaking big. Anyone out there with flipping skills? I absolutely loved when I figured that out. And strangely enough, I don't do it nearly as well with my right hand, which is actually my dominant hand. It's easier for me with my left. But give that a good flip. And salt and pepper. I know I didn't do my musical spice today. We'll get there. Okay, we're gonna let this cook down for just a little bit. And while we do, I wanted to check back in about the dependency aspect of things. Because again, another word that you hear, codependency. So what does that mean? As I started, the idea of, if you're looking for validation or an ability to feel complete as a person, but you haven't engaged with yourself to find that state of being for yourself, you have no other choice but to look outside of yourself, to people and situations. And what'll happen is you'll find someone else, you know, that whole, the Jerry Maguire, you complete me. I know it's romantic, but it's horrible. It's so horrible. Because it only works in the movies. Because if you're not a complete person and you find another incomplete person, and the only way you can be complete is with each other, then it's impossible to be complete without them. You are now dependent on them for your well-being. And they are dependent on you for their well-being. Hence, codependency. How about that? Horrible, horrible, horrible. one of the absolute worst situations you can be in because it drives you crazy. You don't understand why, if you're not aware of this, you don't understand why you can't seem to, like, I have the person, I have the relationship, why aren't I happy? Why doesn't this work? I don't get it. It's because a huge chunk of your happiness is dependent on the happiness of somebody else. So you're emotionally, psychologically, and physically tied to another person that has direct control over how you're feeling because you're allowing that. And if you're not aware that that's happening, you feel crazy. It's like, how can this not work? So really, really important to be aware of the fact that you can have an amazingly good relationship with someone and feel that, wow, this person brings a lot that I feel I might have been missing in my life. But, like, missing as in, I never had another person to go hiking with. Or I never had a good friend who enjoyed silent movies the way I do. That type of missing. Not like, I've never been able to smile before, and when this person's around, I can smile. Or, feel like I'm worthy of being alive on the planet. Oh my God. Absolutely horrible way to live. And like I said, it just drives you crazy. Anyway. I'm going to pause, because we need to add the chicken stock. Okay, so we're looking pretty good. Things have cooked down a little bit, but they're still not completely all the way, because when I add the chicken stock, and this is the other part, the original recipe for this calls for chicken stock concentrate. But if you're cooking something down, you create the concentrate anyway, so you can just use regular chicken stock. FYI, I got this recipe from HelloFresh in one of our meal kits that we get, and I liked it so much that I wanted to share it with you. So, there we go. My chicken stock. And I'm going to do half a cup. And remember the pour trick? We're not going to pour this way. We're going to pour this way. There we go. Okay. Now obviously, pouring the cold liquid in is going to bring the temperature down, so we have to let the temperature come back up and then wait for it to reduce down, because it is a sauce, not a soup. So I'm going to turn this up just a little bit. Get out my trusty spatula. I gotta say, I don't know about you, but I'm enjoying the music in the background. I had been meaning to get that going, and I'm glad I finally did. So, okay. So once again, fairly quick back up to temperature. If you have a hot pan, of course, and you're not putting a ton of liquid in, so it'll come back up pretty quick. Once it comes up to a boil, you immediately want to bring it down to a simmer again. And there we are. Okay, so down to a simmer. And we're going to let that reduce. And as soon as that reduces, it's just a matter of putting in the butter, the sour cream, and really just mixing it around. It's that simple, which is fantastic. So, as we're waiting for that to simmer down, it's always, I know I'm tangenting so much today. When I was little, we had really good family friends that lived down the street, and their mother, if the kids got too rambunctious, simmer down! Simmer down! If you couldn't tell, I'm from New England. Simmer down! Stop hollering! You're too loud! Can't say simmer down without thinking of that. Okay, so the codependency, the not owning
and recognizing and being okay with the parts of you that you may have a problem with, and you're looking for help outside of yourself to get either approval or support, anything like that. So the honest part is huge with regard to the previous episodes I was talking about, comfortable discomfort and, well, being honest with yourself. That was a big one, right? It's this idea of, if you can't be honest with yourself, just like if you can't love yourself, then you can't love someone else. And it's not to say that you can't love them. It's that you can't love them in a healthy way. That's the important part. It's not that you can't have relationships. It's that you can't have healthy relationships. If your relationship with yourself is not healthy, it's very difficult to have healthy relationships outside of yourself. So, honesty is huge. Can you say to yourself, with no one else around, and it doesn't even apply to anybody else, that was my mistake, I shouldn't have done that, I created a situation in which I wanted this thing, but it didn't work. You're basically self-assessing and acknowledging the truth of your situation so you can appropriately address it. When you do that, it's just like a starting point, right? If you're starting in New York and you're trying to go to Los Angeles, but you lie to yourself and tell yourself you're in Seattle, then you're never going to get to Los Angeles. Because if you don't know where you are, you can't figure out how to get to where you want to go. So you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be compassionate with yourself, because if you're just brutally honest, then you're going to slip into that, oh, I'm just a horrible, horrible person. So honesty without judgment, moving into kindness and compassion, and forgiveness. We are all human beings that do shitty, shitty things to ourselves and each other. But as long as we're learning, that's the best we can do. So you have to forgive yourself for the things that you didn't get right, that you didn't know at the time. As long as you're learning, you're always in a better place. So, the tools, and this is really important. Meditation, journaling. This one I love. And you're going to feel weird doing it at first if you haven't done it already. But talking in the mirror. Because for a lot of people, it's challenging to talk to themselves just in your head. Sometimes it's easier because you're used to conversing with other people. So you go into the bathroom or the bedroom if you have a mirror in there. Do it by yourself. It's totally fine. You don't have to perform in front of other people. But you stand in front of the mirror, you look yourself in the eyes, and you have a conversation. And like I said, it's going to feel weird. But allow it to be weird. Laugh at yourself. Holy crap, this is so weird. Isn't this weird? Yeah, it is, Chris. Just do it, and you will, it's magical. It's really, really interesting how beneficial it can be. So, meditation. If you're not into meditation, that's fine. Self-reflection, which is really the same thing. But if you don't like the word meditation, that's fine. Sitting quietly with yourself. Connecting with who you really are. And journaling. Hugely important. Because oftentimes we get so in our head and we don't realize what we're actually saying. And if you can write it out and then look at it. Wow, that was interesting. It's also like this whole cement mixer idea where you're just going over and over and over and over and over. It just never changes. If you get it out of your head, it's over there now. So you can actually take a look at it. And you may discover something that you weren't aware of. Because if you're writing it in words, because we don't think in words, we think in pictures. And so many times we just have feelings about things. Our intuition comes through feelings, not words. And our thoughts are pictures, not words. So getting it out in words sometimes allows you to realize something you didn't realize before. Meditate or journaling after meditation is hugely important too. It's not necessary by any means, but it's very beneficial after that fact, because as you're self-reflecting, things will come up that wouldn't have otherwise, and then being able to write those out is really, really beneficial. Coaching. What I do. This is huge too. Being able and willing to be coached. Understanding and accessing your intuition. And just as a side commentary on this, this is the first program that I'm going to be releasing very soon. I'm thinking probably early next year. If I can get it done before the end of the year, that'd be fantastic. But I want to make sure that it's quality before I just put it out there. So this program is designed to help you identify, acknowledge, discover, utilize, and find the nuances of your intuition, your genuine self, if you will. Getting out of this idea of, oh, well, I have to do this for this reason, or I have to do that for that reason, and this person outside of myself, and that situation outside of myself, which is your false self, as I like to say. And this is kind of common language in the personal development world. If you're following all the external things in your life, you're not being true to yourself. So it's your false self. It's the things that aren't real. They're manufactured. They're stories. They're non-beneficial creations that don't serve you, you know? So the ability to find and work with a coach who can help you through this stuff and not do it for you. And this is not therapy. The difference between, and believe me, there's absolutely nothing wrong with therapy, and I would encourage everyone to find a good therapist. I have one myself. But whereas therapy is a little more self-reflective, and it's kind of someone is helping to hold a mirror up to you, which is a little bit of coaching as well. But coaching is more, well, look at a sports coach, right? They're going to encourage you and push you and inspire you to do it yourself. So that is something amazingly beneficial to creating a positive, beneficial relationship with yourself, is finding and utilizing a really good coach. So I definitely wanted to share my kind of throwing my hat in the ring with regard to what I'm doing. And as I said, I'm hoping this will be out in the next few months. So if that intrigues you, feel free to connect with me. And programs aside, I can certainly work directly with anybody if you have an interest in that. And I do free consultation calls. So let's get on that. Okay. So we are down. Oh, you see how much this is reduced down now? Just a little bit of liquid in there. Mushrooms are nice and tender. So we're going to get our sour cream and our butter ready. And basically, you want to turn the heat all the way off. So there's plenty of heat left in the pan, but you're not cooking anymore, so the butter and the sour cream are not boiling, because it can get all sorts of grainy and separate, and it's not good. So I'm going to be slightly generous with my sour cream. So 2 tablespoons.
1 tablespoon of butter. Bam. Always looks like so much when it goes in the pan like that. And then it's just a matter of mixing it around until it's melted. And it's kind of amazing how this comes together right at the end. Now, always, always, always with anything you're cooking, you want to taste and season as necessary. So I already put salt and pepper on the chicken that ended up in the pan. I already added salt and pepper to the mushrooms, but you may find they need a little bit more at the end. So we shall see. So now that this is generally mixed, I am going to let it sit for a second. Just to make sure it's completely mixed around. So here we go. There is the sauce. So now that this is incorporated, I am going to turn the heat back on to low just to get the chicken going. So now that the sauce is mixed, we're just going to put the chicken right back in. And the juices. Oh, hello. My lovely wife getting something. So, this is really quick. And again, if you didn't cook the chicken all the way through, now is the time to let it finish in the sauce. But you basically just want to toss the sauce over the chicken. If it's not completely cooked, to finish cooking it, but if it is completely cooked, to get it completely dressed in the sauce. And warmed back up again if it cooled down too much when it was sitting up. So, now that the pan is a little warmer after putting it on low, I'm going to turn it back off. And we're going to come back over here. And we're going to take 1 piece of green scallion. Stick. There we are. Same plate we have the cooked chicken on. And here we are. So, I'm just gonna take that piece of chicken off. Take this piece of chicken off. You ready for this? Whoa. Oh yeah. And obviously have a little left over. Can save that. Cook some more chicken later. Yeah. Let's just use this knife. Okay. Here we are. Oh, damn. That's really good. Okay. So,
So important to have a good relationship with yourself so you can have good relationships with other people. Self-work, it's simple, but it takes time. That's really important. And why? What's the end goal? Why do all this work? Maybe so you can be happy. Because we got to be here anyway. You might as well be happy. Right? Jeez, man! Amazing concept. So, tools, meditation, journaling, talking to yourself in the mirror. No, that sounds weird. Let's say talking with yourself in the mirror. That's better. Meditation, journaling, talking with yourself in the mirror, and finding a really good coach to help you move through and understand your intuition and your genuine self. So, this has been Cooking with Crick, episode 5. And here's your final product. I'm gonna have another bite and then go bring some of this to my wife because I know she's gonna love it. Ah, damn, that's good. My last little thing before I bring it up to her. The garnish. And there we are, folks. Mushroom sauce over chicken. And our topic. Relationship with yourself. Thank you for joining me for episode 5 of Cooking with Crick. And I will see you next week. I think I might be getting into some egg dishes coming up soon. Some deviled eggs and just some, possibly even some soft-boiled eggs for a nice, easy breakfast. So, but we'll see, and I'll let you know. Thanks again for hanging out. See you next week.